The meeting is being recorded and is live on Zoom. And for community members who join and want to add anything to the chat for questions, we will ask at the end of every section for community members who have questions or comments. And without further ado, let's begin with the first item on the agenda, which is the list of bills. Do either of you have any questions on any of the items listed?
No. Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay. I don't have any questions, so are we good to move this one forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, on to the next, the purchasing report. Mr. Lill?
Good morning, thank you. Two items in the purchasing report. I'll take the first one. District-wide recycling and solid waste, basically trash removal. This is our current contract with Waste Management is about to expire. We procured these services through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, the MCIU. They do this as a consortium proposal where they take all of the school districts in Montgomery County and bundle them together for, some pricing benefit and strength in numbers. So for waste, solid waste, trash, this would only apply to locations that are non-school locations like my office in Vernon, Bauer, Kinwood, the transportation facility at Maston Ford, where Mr. Vilson's office is. Waste Management would be removing the trash from those non-school locations. And then the recycling is throughout the district, every location, every school, every property, every building. And that would be at an annual cost of $41,000. And on a 3-year agreement, that would be a total cost of $124,000. And again, that's all negotiated and pricing obtained via the MCIU process.
Who takes away the rest of the trash to the school buildings?
So we've had a longstanding arrangement with Lower Merion Township.
Oh, great.
And they are the ones that pick up all of the trash, the solid waste at the 11 schools.
Okay.
If I could, speaking to some of the head custodians recently, they actually have given it like a really good quality level of service.
Great.
Feedback. High schools and middle schools, the township's out there daily, which is great because we do generate a lot of trash.
Yeah.
Elementary schools are mostly daily, although Belmont Hills was like every other day just because of the volume and keeping
Yeah.
up with it. But, it might be a situation, extenuating circumstances, township might miss a pickup, and then they're out there the next day, and, we're never
Great.
like having extended periods where it's piling up. So I got some pretty good feedback from them on
Wonderful.
what we're
I will
getting.
take that opportunity to thank all of our janitors, custodians, because they do an exceptional job in our district, and I know they work hard for our kids. Do we find that there's any kind of quality difference between any of the vendors, or is it just really one of those things where we should pick the cheapest? And also, is it also one of those things where we are legally obligated to pick the lowest reasonable bid?
I think in this situation, we are going to recommend it go with that lowest price. There is a lot of discussion amongst the facility directors and facility managers throughout Montgomery County. We have an email chain that we kind of keep each other abreast on. The outside providers aren't getting the quality of service scores that I just described to you that we get for our trash. And that's kind of been pretty universal, and it seems to be as pretty universal for pretty much any company. You figure company A covers a massive geographic area for municipal hauling and commercial accounts everywhere. If company A's truck breaks down the day that they're supposed to be in Lower Merion,
They just don't come.
and then you might not see them again until next week.
So why can't we have the township take your trash away?
Why can't they take away our recycling? Because they already do take away the trash.
At your building?
Well, no, and that's not a problem because we don't generate enough that it's
Okay.
really a concern. Recycling, however.
Yes.
I did do some preliminary look into it and had some brief conversations with some people at the township. They really don't have the equipment and the systems to handle our recycling stream. They're more equipped to handle it residential level.
Okay.
And, we would have to put, it would different types of equipment, it'd be different types of separating, like, if I'm not mistaken,
It's
Lower Merion
single
residents have to separate
Well,
different weeks, different
paper, yeah,
streams.
paper and then non-paper, so glass and plastic.
Alternating weeks and things of that nature. Right now, all that system and even the equipment to pick up our dumpsters isn't in place, the recycling cans. So it would take
I see.
it's not impossible. It would just have to take some structuring it to get them us to fit within their system, which we're just not right now equipped to do.
Well, maybe if we're looking at a 3-year contract, that might be something to talk about the township looking into for that third-year horizon.
And that would also give us the lead time to make sure that we have everything, because, again, they do a phenomenal job with the school trash. Just in talking and looking at what they offer, I could see where there's some limitations equipment-wise, and also that we'd have to start separating recycling.
And they
which we're not doing
they
now.
will take, for the recycling, they'll take paper, plastic, metal, glass.
For Lower Merion, yes, but you have to, you have.
No,
to
for this contract that we're
Oh, I'm
looking at.
sorry. Waste management, we put everything in a recycling can, and then the other can's trash.
Yeah, they take paper, plastic, aluminum cans.
And do we know for fact that it actually gets recycled rather than just combined into the trash stream?
I can tell you certain things are recycled because there's a very good market for items, so I'm sure they're trying to get the revenue on the back end by turning it along. Recycling's become difficult because, everybody wants everything to be pure plastic. And,
Right.
that takes some labor. But there are some streams I understand that can generate some revenue, so I'm sure those companies are definitely taking advantage of that.
Okay. If, I know this is just sort of tangentially related, but I know that there are glass recycling, like artisan things that will
Right.
take it. There's actually a pickup spot in Narberth for a company that does glass blowing and recycled glass with glass vessels if we wanted to think about
Sure.
doing that. And they will take that for free off our hands
Sure.
and actually make it into nice stuff.
And you just have to have everything set up so that they're
Right.
able to accept
Glass in a separate,
in whatever container you have.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely things.
I just figured I'd bring it up. It's called Remark Glass. They work out of the Bach Building in South Philly.
That might be something that a club at one of the schools
Yes,
might be interested
absolutely.
in
Yeah.
looking into.
Okay, now that I've asked my 17 questions, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
So it's more on our end of just how we separate things as opposed to the township?
There's also some equipment limitations. There's also some physical container limitations. I mean, there's a lot of trash details I can get into, and I'd be happy to.
No. So if we could maybe for the future, just before
Precisely.
the next time, just kind of figuring out what the requirements would be on our end in order to utilize the township for recycling, and then also the cost, probably the cost first of whether or not it would be a difference in cost to use the township as opposed to the waste management. And then also, it would be interesting to just see if the township picked up our trash as well from, the executive, from your buildings as well, if that was, they won't do it?
Nah, actually, they're kind of doing us a favor doing the schools because they're really only doing residential. So I think with those 4 locations, since they are office buildings, it would be consistent with every other office building on my block. So I think it's understandable that we would do that for office building locations like mine. I think they're doing us a great job and a great favor with the schools.
Well, we're paying for the schools, aren't we?
We are, but.
Do we have an idea of how much we pay annually for the schools?
I actually have all that piled up on my desk because I was trying to look at it. I was converting gallons to cubic yards to tons and going through a whole other thing. And unfortunately got a kind of a spreadsheet that went out of control on me. So, I do have those numbers. I just didn't get a chance to kind of put them side by side.
So I think just in the future, maybe in the meantime not that it's going to impact this, but just so that we have an idea from a standpoint, just the cost associated with, the yearly or the annual for the trash for all the schools, I think would give us a little bit of perspective.
Sure. And I think there's also things as we move forward, I know if it isn't broke, don't fix it, but there's also opportunities to do things that we can do. We just have to make sure we have all the right systems in place. And then also have to offset it with any labor costs we may have, rather than splitting things into 2 containers, trash, recycling. Now we might have 3, you might have 4. So we got to kind of do that whole cost benefit analysis. And like I said, I started playing with that and then I got a little
Thank you.
sidetracked.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because it's also can be more labor intensive if you have to.
So you have to
So we have to
weigh it
factor
out,
that in
yeah.
as well.
Correct.
Yeah, who says you don't need math after school? The other thing to consider too is that we are very limited in this township for what you can recycle. Like, they don't do plastic bags, they don't do Tetra Paks. So if you have a recycling stream that actually does broader, and actually does recycle it.
And to your point, that's one of the benefits. When you look at a 330,000 square foot building back there at Lower Merion High School with probably 1,800 people in there, putting the trash in one big 20-yard container and then putting every recycling thing in another does have that efficiency, because if you're having to start splitting things out, even at home, that can be a little bit of a pain in the neck sometimes. Now you multiply that out by
Everybody.
very, very larger waste stream. So
One very, very big family.
that's one way to look at us.
And I'll just pop my thank you into the township for working with us on that, because
Yeah.
I love every partnership that we can have between the district and the
Right.
township. So
Thank you. That's actually a good thought. I was wondering too, how much is the change in the waste management costs that MCIU negotiated? Because this is for the entire Montgomery County or whatever district wanted to opt in on it?
It depends upon what region you're in, so there's different regions.
Okay.
So it varies from what the IU goes out for a request for proposal every year. There's different regions they have, so there's different areas. So this is the one in our area that waste management was the lowest bid.
And I was just looking back, and I had it here, because we do this every 3 years, so I have the prior year's numbers, which I had in front of me a minute ago. It's also based on how much we generate, like they go by
Okay.
the size of your container, how frequently you're picked up, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I don't need,
2021.
exactly, I just wonder, is it comparable or is it, are we looking?
When we did this, I'm sorry, when we did this in 2021, which is the 3-year agreement's expiring now, the waste management was the lowest price at $30,176. Now they're up to 41.
Yeah.
And I anticipated we would have a type of a 25% increase, because a lot of the hauling costs have gone up in the past 3 years. Now, the good thing is we're fixed. So if if there's any escalation, this is now a fixed price for the next 3 years. But I had every reason to believe it was going to go up, and it seems to go up about maybe 20% every 3 years. Just as a trend, looking back at the prior purchasing reports.
It's hauling costs, it's fuel costs.
Yeah,
Labor costs are going up, everything's going up.
So, yeah, it's just in line with
It's
what
going,
other thing?
going up, but it's not going astronomical. It seems to be, trending with what we've gotten for the past 3 year.
Okay, okay.
The past
and
three years.
And looking at comparison to the other two options, it seems like there's still a very
Yeah.
Correct.
financially reasonable option.
And that seems to be getting to be a trend as well. Kind of looking at the 3-year patterns over the past couple agreements.
Okay, are we good to move to the next item? Is there any comments from? Yeah. I don't think so. Okay, and so we also have, I guess we can move the full purchasing report. We can talk about the paper next.
Yep, so through Montgomery County Intermediate Cooperative Purchasing, every year we go through a bidding process with them for copier paper. W. Mason was awarded the contract for the upcoming school year at $30.33 per carton. Currently paying about $34 a cart right now, so it's a reduction. And we use about 3,200 cartons approximately every year of just the white paper. So we recommend to move forward with this.
That sounds great to me. I just wonder, do we have on our computers and on our printers and on our copiers, have them default set to printing double-sided? And / can we do that?
Yes, we can.
Great. I think that would be really good efficiency, both for our planet and our bottom line. And for the amount of papers our teachers have to carry around when they're grading.
Nothing. Thank you.
Purchasing report with number one, that does a little bit of research over the time to see whether there's a better option or a different option.
And also we'd have the lead time to switch systems and things of that nature. So if we could get the approval, then we can certainly make that a long-term goal.
Okay, is that,
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thanks. Okay, next on the list is the Accordance LLC order.
Yes, so this is Ben Express is our benefit administration software product we've used for the last probably 8 years or so. Our current contract runs through June of '25. And you can see the price in there. The company has offered us another extension, a 5-year extension at the same price level through June 30th of 2030. So we're recommending to accept this extension. Mr. Demkin from the HR department is here to give any specifics but that's our recommendation to move forward. We're very satisfied with the product. This is for all, like, our onboarding for our open enrollment. It monitors all our benefits, and it's worked out very well for us.
PEPM is per employee per month?
Correct, per employee per month.
Okay. And so that 250, when you multiply by all the employees, is that 4,400 number, or is that in addition?
That's correct.
We're only charged for people who are benefit eligible.
Okay, yeah, but so yes, it's so the 250 times the approximate number of employees is that 4,400, or is in addition to that number?
That is the total.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't twice. Thank you.
And I know you're happy with the system. Is this in line with other systems that are similar, cost-wise?
This is far cheaper. For comparison, we went with them in 2016. The previous product we had for 4 years was increasing at about $10,000 per year and wasn't customizable or anything. This system is, we make any kind of, we want any customization, they do it no charge at all. They feel it's an enhancement of their product for other customers. And we've maintained that rate since 2016.
And you've been happy with the product and all of the services that it provides?
Been very happy with it. They're really easy to work with. The employees like it. It's a very simple system. It's like screen by screen. It's not flashy with all the things. It does what it's supposed to do, and it's really good for back-end reporting, which of course has increased over the last few years. So to be able to quickly go in there and also have all that archived history, it makes it really easy to do other functions in the district.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's great from the back end. Is this something that at the front end, or is there another, is this just the back end and there's something else in the front end?
No, every employee, everybody onboarding is, I'm sorry, oh, okay. Feedback. Every employee who onboards goes through the.
It's your hand on the
Oh, is it? I'm
microphone,
sorry.
that's what it is.
Okay. Goes through that process. Everybody in open enrollment goes through that. Any life changes during the year, somebody has a baby, somebody gets divorced. That system does all of that, and then it feeds to all the carriers automatically. So it's really a front-end product, but it also has really good back-end capabilities.
That sounds great. Everybody here is school related, right? So, okay, is there any comments online? Okay. So are we good to move this forward?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
I'm thrilled to see something that hasn't increased in price since 2016. That is not what we usually hear of here.
Yeah. Okay, next is Visual Sound Smart Software Renewal. Mr. Fraser.
Good morning. This is a renewal product that's probably been used for close to or more than 10 years. This is a product that connects with the interactive projectors that I'm sure you're familiar with at this point. This is a product that actually allows the teachers to take advantage of the features of the interactive board. It has a lot of tools in it for visuals. Further, it allows the teachers to create like a notebook, if you will, and save what it is that they've been working on. And then now it has actually a new feature where the teachers can then share that online with students. It's feature rich enough that there's even teachers that use it that don't have interactive boards to create lessons for students and activities for students. Dr. McGloin, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
These are the smart boards that we got presentations in CCOB on last year, right?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, great.
They are.
Yep,
But
yep.
it is used both with the board itself, but also teachers use the smart notebooks to create lesson plans that we can project even if it's not an interactive projector. So it's heavily used by our staff.
Well, that sounds, I actually was just in one of the schools and got to see one of those smart boards in action with the teachers. I was impressed with how they can use it and how and what it can do to help with the students and interact. Did you have something?
Do we have these in every classroom, from elementary all the way to high school?
No, we don't. So we do have them in every middle school classroom. We have them in some elementary classrooms. We do not have interactive boards largely in the high schools at all. There are more projectors and screens. We do have an initiative to install that's an old term. It's an interactive projector in elementary classrooms. We're working on that this year. I believe, though, we anticipate a pause next year, and then we'll pick it up the following year after that.
Are we anticipating for the full-day kindergarten initiative to have these in all of the kindergarten classrooms?
That's the goal. That's the goal.
For next year?
Not for next year. No. So we laid out initially, we laid out a 3-year plan that would install the interactive projectors in all the elementary classrooms. Full-day kindergarten came along after that. So we were looking at perhaps a 4th year of the project, but that hasn't been fully fleshed out yet.
Is that because we diverted some of our funding to supporting the full-day kindergarten initiative? Or?
Well, we're adding an additional amount of classrooms that we had not anticipated when we
I
came to the
see.
board with
Right.
we have a 3-year rollout plan to have interactive projectors in every classroom in elementary school. We're in that first year. We have some, we're adding more this year, but with the additional classrooms for full-day kindergarten, that's an additional expense that we had not anticipated, which puts it to a 4th year, and that's why it prolongs it, pushes it
That
out.
totally makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there, sorry,
No, go ahead.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but if we're looking at elementary school, is there specific grades that would benefit more for the smart board technology versus others? And if we have made that determination, let's say for argument's sake, kindergartners or 1st graders or 4th graders would benefit from that, during this rollout period, would it make sense to reallocate those resources to those that would benefit most from them for the upcoming 3 to 4 years until we have them out in all of those classrooms?
I think it's a really good question. Honestly, there's nothing that's out there that says one grade benefits over the other. Elementary benefits for sure. You see it in elementary and middle more than high school because the value of an elementary student, even in kindergarten, being able to use that interactivity is great. But there's nothing out there that says kindergarten should have it over 4th grade, over 3rd grade. So every building looks a little different, just depending on how they wanted to do the rollout.
So some kindergarten classrooms, those that I guess were not added on for the full day kindergarten might have the technology while other kindergarten classrooms might not. The same thing with like a 3rd grade classroom might have it. 2 classrooms might have it in the same school, whereas 1 doesn't.
Yeah,
It's just,
it does vary from, it does vary from building to building. Additionally, there were rooms moved around with 5th grade going to the middle schools, so some of the principals moved classrooms around as a result of that. So if you were to look at it, if you were to look at all 6 elementary buildings by grade level at the same time, you would see different deployments. We're basically trying to fill that in, is what we're trying to do over the next couple of years.
And we've been trying to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, we've been
please.
trying to have it so that the same grade has it. It's just when there's a move that happens, sometimes that shifts it off. We do have some kindergarten classrooms that absolutely have smart boards in them. I could think of Belmont Hills, just right off the top of my head. They have them in the kindergarten classrooms. And I would anticipate she may try to put the other kindergarten in the classroom that has it, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. So we've tried to have it be more consistent across grade levels as we roll it through, but with moves, that doesn't always happen when we're trying to get classrooms to stay together.
And this software, this software will sort of be a stopgap for those classrooms that don't have the smart board yet, but the teachers can still use the digital notebooks with their standard projectors in their classrooms, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
They certainly can. There's even teachers that use it with regular projectors like this.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
We're not putting it in as a stopgap, though. I mean, there may be.
No, I know, I just meant
it's
that
okay.
like a better than nothing as we're making the transition to having smart boards in every room.
But we've had the software for a while, so this isn't
Okay,
a
this
new
is just a-
purchase. This is just a renewal purchase.
Okay.
Right, and so this notebook, the smart notebook's been used in the district previously, even before we started the rollout plan to get it projectors into every classroom.
So we
The
like
interactive
this
projectors
program?
into every classroom. We have projectors in every classroom, they're just not all interactive at this point in time.
We like this program, the teachers are happy using it? Great.
and the expectation, sorry, is that within 4 years, including this year, so 3 more years or 4 more years, so 4 more years, we should have these interactive projectors in.
So presently, we are installing this year. Next year, we're going to have a pause in the budget for it, and and it's going to be picked up again, hopefully, the following year and then the following year. But this coming year, this coming budget year, there will be a pause in the initiative.
Got it. And how much does each one cost, if you know? Just,
It's somewhere between like 8,000 and 9,000 per classroom, which sounds high, but it also comes with like a sound system. There's a classroom sound system installed. It's an interactive projector, which needs a specific board. It does take, it's not like hanging one of these where you just put it on a post and point it and it's done. It does take a degree of skill to install them, so we have an installer do that for us. So there is a little bit more complexity in that, and for that cost.
but right now, every classroom does have the projector, just not the interactive one.
Correct.
Correct.
And then sorry, last thing is that when we do install those, it's not upgrading the current system, right? You're just getting a brand new one. So what do we do with the old projectors that we have? Are we repurposing them? Do we sell them back? I know we're getting off a tangent, sorry, but just
No,
curious.
all good questions. So in many cases at the elementary level, the projectors are on carts. So it's literally a projector on a cart that the teacher manages to use in the classroom. When they do get an interactive projector installed, the projectors that are on the carts are repurposed, reused for a variety of things. There's still the need for mobile projectors, locations where we have projectors on, we refer to that as a projector on a stick, where we have projectors on sticks, we'll reuse them. They do have a limited lifetime. They're good for about 7 to 10 years, so we start replacing them as necessary. So I don't know that we've ever sold any back, but we do repurpose them and reuse them.
Perfect, thank you.
Certainly.
Thanks. I'm thinking about too, is like technology constantly changing too, and we did buy some that don't even need a projector last year so who knows in the direction they're going in the next 4 years, what could be around, so. But I'm looking at this thing, I would support it in the fact that it looks like it's something that benefits teachers beyond having a smart board, and it's just that it works with the smart board is the benefit, and that helping them to create a lesson plan, and if they're like that and it helps do a better lesson plan, then I would suggest that we move this forward.
I agree.
Yeah, I should say, was there any community comments before about that? Okay. Okay, then we're good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Certainly. The second item I have on the agenda is with Blue Mountain Cyber. This is a new company for us. So just from a big picture, what they're helping us with, what we're hoping to engage them for, is similar to how we were engaging a company by the name of Optiv. You may have heard of Optiv previously. We are getting towards the end of our migration, our transition from online email, on-prem email, on-prem SharePoint, on-prem directory services to Microsoft's M365 and Azure. So we have, over the last 2 years, migrated a lot of the services that are within our Microsoft products from here locally to Microsoft's cloud. That's a pretty big change in configuration and setup and how we have moved those pieces over. I'm hoping to engage Blue Mountain Cyber to come in and review baseline that migration so that we have a secure baseline that we can move forward knowing that our cloud services are secure. A lot of companies, when they make this transition, they don't go back and ensure that they're secure, and eventually that leaves them vulnerable to a breach down the line. This will give us a baseline. But the three options are being shown on the board presently. I'm actually hoping to engage them for option C so that they can help us correct any issues that we find. And it is actually just a little bit under what we had initially budgeted with Optiv to do the same work. So a little bit of a cost savings, plus the 40 hours of consulting services to help fix issues.
Is this purely for staff, or is this for staff and students? And then like my second question, is it only for district computers, or would it include like a student using or an employee using their personal computer to access school, like email or whatever?
Great question. So it's, yes, but to add a little bit of context to that. So the first thing we moved over was what's called directory services. And that's like your username and your password. So when you type in your username and your password, it's the thing on the network that says, yep, I recognize that person and we'll let them join the network. So we've moved that directory service from just strictly here on-prem. So now it's kind of hybrid. It's both here and in Microsoft's cloud. And to that, we added MFA. So to answer your question, students log in with their password, this is part of that.
Okay.
When I log in and I have to complete the MFA authentication, this is part of that. So it's the thing that's responding to
So any
8,000
machine that's trying to connect to any LMSD digital service, basically.
Correct, and we've even expanded it. So in order to make the user experience better, we've connected it to other services like eFinance or PowerSchool. So now when someone wants to log into PowerSchool, their machine recognizes that they've already logged into this service and said, I'll let you log in. You don't have to enter a password. It carries over that authentication and allows them to log in without having to re-enter a new password.
Great.
So that's one. Two, email. We moved our email services from here on-prem again to Microsoft's cloud and M365. So fundamentally, all of our email is now in Microsoft's cloud. And that's really big, right? So we want to make sure that we secure that. That's not something that we want to just put in Microsoft's cloud and not ensure that we did it right. Maybe that's a better way to explain it. Like, we want to make sure that the work that we've done over the last 2 years has been done right.
That totally makes sense. So my last question is, does it cover things on school machines that aren't in Microsoft Cloud? So this is a school machine. If Mel decides to check her personal Gmail on this machine, it's not part of Microsoft's cloud, but it is part of our school system. Is that covered in this assessment?
Yeah, well, it's not going to cover that particular machine. But what it will cover is, as an example, if someone's trying to log into your account from, say, Europe, while you just logged into it here in Pennsylvania, it's Microsoft's cloud services that will say, that's impossible. That person just logged in from Pennsylvania and now they're trying to log in from Eastern Europe. So that's impossible to happen. It's the Microsoft products that will identify that and alert us that that is happening.
All right, and this company is a reputable company who,
They are. In fact, the principal of this company teaches cybersecurity classes, and I think is an author of cloud security courses it's called SANS. Unless you're in the cybersecurity community, it
I
doesn't
trust
mean
you.
anything. But yes, they are.
Okay, great, thank you.
How often do we conduct these assessments as a district to determine what our needs are? And
So this is a first for us because of that migration of services from on-prem to the cloud. And again, this is like a baselining for us, so that should we have any kind of security drift, we'll be able to go back to the baseline and say, hey, that's not, best practice. Like, whatever caused that drift, we need to fix and go back to that baseline. So this type is perhaps a one-off, in just ensuring that we did it right. Now, we do engage a variety of assessments. So this year, we are scheduled for a pen test. We take money that's left over from a retainer, and if we don't need to use the retainer, we put it into a pen test. So our external public-facing servers will be pen tested this spring. We have another assessment where, we did this last year instead of a pen test, where the company actually tests our ability to react to things. It's called a purple team. And the company works alongside us to say, okay, if you see this kind of alert, how do you respond to that? And they actually kind of grade us on how we're doing in responding to things. Another assessment is, and this is in fact optive, we'll be coming in to look at our whole security program and say, you're doing well over here, but you're missing this piece over here. As an example, you're doing well with vulnerability scanning, but you're not doing well with educating users on security protocols. So there's a lot of different assessments that go on, but this particular one's a one-off because it's a baseline, and will give us that foundation to say, all right, this is secure. We have to keep working to that baseline.
Got it, okay. And based on this, as well as the other tests that we have, as comfortable as you can be, that we have all the resources that we need devoted to make sure that our infrastructure from information technology is sufficient. You'll come to us if you need additional resources to ensure and to make sure that our information system is secure.
I certainly will, and I appreciate that question. So after we conduct the assessment this spring of the security program, I'll be able to better answer that and actually have a third party say, this is where your IS department is doing well or not doing well, and be able to give you a much more detailed answer to that question.
Great, thank you.
I had one more quick question just about the pricing. Do we have to commit, I know you said you'd prefer to use option C. Do we commit now to recommending option C? Or is it something where we can engage their services, start with option A, and if they're like, you need this next level, you can go to option B, and then, or if you need this next level, then we can up to option C as we're there?
Well, it would change the scope of work for the company. So if you look at option A, they're looking at a vulnerability assessment, but if you look at option B, they're actually going to compare that to known threats to the district. So the scope of search is different there between A and B. So and I'll ask Vic to help me out here, from a requisition process, it would be better to encumber all the money first, and then if we don't need to use the 40 hours, get billed against that.
Would that be possible to say, okay, like when we do a not to exceed, could we do it as a not to exceed 25.5, but start with, say, level B, and then if they need to raise it to level C, we could? Is that possible?
Well, you could put a motion on, not to exceed amount. I think what George is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, George, they would do option B. He has 40 hours of consulting. If they don't use all the 40 hours, we're not going to be billed for it.
Okay.
So I guess we'll probably put a motion on, not to exceed 25,500. It sounds like we may not use the whole 25,000.
Okay, that just as long as that's the way it will be presented on the board agenda, that's the way we could do it. That sounds much more comfortable for me.
So it sounds like option B would be a fixed price, but option C would be like a cost reimbursement, based upon how many hours we use.
That's what.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We could certainly try to position it that way.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just wanted to clarify one thing with the system. When dealing with Office 365 and all the array of apps that go with it, you typically are logging into Microsoft and their MFA services, which I have to say, I have so many times gotten emails, things to approve logins with my email, and they weren't me. So it's so important to have that multi-factor authentication on it too. But I'm just wondering how, if they're looking at what is the variabilities that we have? Is it going against like stuff that we have set up here locally? Because you're talking about a lot of things being on-prem, but moving to the cloud, but how many options do we have to make these changes that Microsoft, because it seems like Microsoft sends a package and that it's very much, this is a standard package, how do you set it up? And I'm, sorry, I'm getting confusing.
Like,
No,
how is it our
how-
responsibility, or like the way we design it to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it different?
Yeah, how much of a. Flexibility, thank you, that's the word I wanted. How much flexibility do we have to change what the Microsoft package and, as far as the logins for all these services?
I guess, I guess what it is with the consulting services, the question, I think what you're asking is that if they provide you with consulting services, are you going to be able to implement any of those potential changes or recommendations because the Microsoft package is what it is? Like, is that what you're asking?
It is what it is, and that's what I'm just trying to figure out, like, how much of it is that, how much have we made changes here that, like, do we have firewalls? Do we have, and set up, and do we have a Linux system running behind the scenes and things like that? Is that this type of stuff that they're looking at and how they all operate together?
So within the Microsoft products, there is some flexibility on how you can do things. I mean, they do offer some flexibility about like MFA and login and things like that. In terms of like a firewall and Linux, we have both. That's more here on-prem.
Okay,
These products that we're talking about are more in Microsoft's cloud. So this doesn't restrict us from doing other things, like keeping services on-prem or using different operating systems like Linux. So I don't know that we've lost flexibility in exchange for gaining better security and better services. So one of the things that really pushed us to move our email from here on-prem to Microsoft's cloud was, number one, the number of attacks against email, and the ability to patch it very quickly in order to fix it so that it wasn't vulnerable to a compromise. So by moving our email from on-prem to Microsoft, true, we gave up a little bit of flexibility, but in exchange for that, we gained a much faster patching cycle so that it wasn't as vulnerable.
okay.
So certainly we gave up some flexibility. I don't know that I could put my finger on an example of that right now, but in exchange for that, we gained much more security around email.
Okay, so the scope of this is going to be looking almost solely at how we've set up the system within the Microsoft cloud.
Yeah. We haven't lost anything. In fact, that's very specific to that.
Okay.
It's strictly Microsoft products in their cloud.
Okay.
And that's directory services, MFA, email, SharePoint. It's pretty specific to those things. OneDrive, the things that you're familiar with
Yeah.
Microsoft M365. We just want to make sure that we did it right. But we didn't give up any of the other things that we're currently doing. Where we will realize the savings is we can reduce the number of on-prem servers because we won't be hosting our own Exchange email servers anymore. We can reduce the number of SharePoint servers that we had on-prem. So we are going to be able to see a physical reduction in equipment here on premises as well.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate your, because I just wanted to understand the scope.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, Are we?
And then they'll compare, sorry, and then just to tie it, and then they'll compare it to best practices and what's the norm and provide you with recommendations, if there are any, of how we compare to best practices so that you can come back to us and say, these are ways that we can become the best practices for this type of work.
Yeah, I mean, depending upon, like, if it's something very tactical, it's like check this box, not that box. I mean, we're going to execute that to ensure security. But if it's something more strategic, like moving the entire district to MFA, like that's something that you'll probably hear about. But I think most of this is going to be on a very tactical level of improving security configuration.
And just
Give
for
us-
anybody that's watching the live stream of this, MFA is multi-factor authentication.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just one thing to note in the contract, for some reason, if we need to bring them here in person, we'll incur additional travel costs. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but if we need to bring them here in person, it'll be in addition to the 25.5 that's in the contract.
Thanks. Is there any comments? Okay, and we're good to move this forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Let's see, last one, DSI service agreement.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
It's always hard to present again after George. You can't top projector on a stick.
Oh, you've come up with some pretty good ones yourself.
I would like to ask the board to approve a new contract with DSI Medical Services for our drug testing, for our drug and alcohol testing. We currently, just to give a brief history, we currently use WorkNet. WorkNet was recently acquired by Concentra, which is a bigger, larger company. And we having some service issues being able to get the consultations from them or getting answers fast. And that sometimes may hold up a driver for a day or two from driving, which also is hurting us. So we looked at other options. I talked to other districts. Pretty much most of the other districts were using DSI, and I had used them in about 10 years ago when I worked for Carbon Leak High Intermediate Unit. I was happy with their services, and when we looked into that, we probably will be able to save around $5,000+ also over a year.
How often do we drug and alcohol test or I guess we don't alcohol test we do, oh yeah. How often do we test our employees? Is it just at time of hire or is there random screenings?
I can't answer for employees. I can answer for bus
For bus
drivers.
drivers.
Bus drivers they have a pre-employment test.
Yes.
Then they have a DOT random test. We have to test about 25% drivers annually. The names of the drivers are selected by the testing company. They give us a list. Drivers don't know until that day. After on, they are called in, come to office, and then they are drug and alcohol tested. And then, then we do, which is, as a district, we go farther. We test every employee at least once a year.
So how is it handled for like alcohol or marijuana, medical marijuana being legal in this state? How is that handled with?
It's not legal federally, and
Okay.
this is a DOT drug test, so that would be automatic termination of the person. at
Okay,
this point.
and so alcohol is something that like, if you I'm just thinking if somebody had a beer on a Saturday and then they were driving, tested on a Tuesday, that wouldn't show up,
No,
right?
no,
Okay.
That's the same as,
A drink every hour.
Yeah, I just wanted to see where
it's a breath alcohol test, same
Oh, okay.
that you would get when
So
you
it's like-
stopped,
okay.
so it's, yeah.
okay, that makes a lot of sense, thank you. And is that a similar testing policy for all the employees of the district, or do we not test our? How does that work for our non-driving employees?
We, in terms of the remainder of our employees, they're not regularly tested. It's not a requirement.
Okay.
It would come into play if there was a reasonable suspicion concern, and then we follow protocol for that.
Okay, is there a pre-employment drug screen?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
I had one question. I was like, this is only for drivers who are our employees. Is that for the ones that we contract with, is that on,
That's on a contractor. This is our school bus drivers. Also, the operations have CDL drivers that get tested under this program. So it's for our staff. We can't test contracted staff. They test themselves.
they have to oblige by the same rules of the DOD that we do?
They not, the school bus contractors, sports contractors, yes. Smaller contractors, when you operate school vehicles, you're really not required. But in our contract, we ask them to test their drivers randomly, just to kind of be similar to us. But non-CDL drivers don't really fall under that requirement.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Any comments from the community? Okay, we appreciate it. Are we good to move this forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Before we close out our meeting, I had one completely unrelated to the agenda question.
I a couple as well, so.
Okay. This is 100% unrelated to anything and not a question I expect you to be able to answer now. Do we have any, not Bartlett, it's Bradford pear trees planted on district grounds? Because I know they are a tree that got planted a lot, but they're a highly invasive species, and a lot of counties and states are moving to ban them and to pay people to cut them down. So I would just, if we happen to have any on our district, I would be happy to, I can't speak for my colleagues, but to allocate the money to chop any of those down and replant with something that isn't going to be an invasive species.
We could certainly take a look. If it was one of the recent construction sites, and by that I mean Black Rock, Harriton, Lower Merion, I mean, I could tell you every tree that was planted because there's very detailed planting plans. Now, again, Black Rock was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Lower Merion High School, Harriton 10, actually 15 years ago. Once you go past that point, it's, property and trees that are, from decades long ago. So we'd have to do some inventory.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Maybe even get some of our students to do a little ecological investigation, because they look very similar to white cherry trees and they grow fast, but the flowers smell bad, and like I said, they're very highly invasive and are outcompeting a lot of natural species all up and down the East Coast.
From my own curiosity, I'm going to look at the plans for those three because it's relatively recent.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago it became an issue with the invasive, because I know there's been different species that have had different struggles over the years.
Yes. And I'm 95% sure it's a Bradford pear. I'm going to double check for you. And I will send you an email when I'm certain.
Because I know at one point ash trees were getting clobbered by ash borer. And
Yes.
people stopped planting ashes, but we have them all over the place because they've been there,
Right.
pre-existing.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple follow-up questions just from last meetings. I was just curious. Do we have a status update? There was I think it was $166,000 bill for the new heater at Black Rock where there was that issue. Did we end up going forward with that, or were we able to get any type of payment or reimbursement because of under quality or any other remedy?
There's a couple different causes that we've determined that work is ongoing because it's necessity. It's a health and safety issue. Those boilers have to operate. They even operate in the summer. We did put for part of that work, I did put the contractor on notice, gave him 21 days to cure, and they sent us a box of gaskets.
Do we know what, if any, avenue we have, if any, to recuperate that $166,000?
Might be a better question for council.
Okay. The second thing was that we had talked about, I think there was $148,000 for the dead and missing plants at Black Rock. We were just curious as to where we were with that. Did we engage that company? I know Melanie also had a name of an arborist who worked for the state that might be able to help provide and ensure that the plants were the appropriate plants for the area.
So that contract was approved by the school board, therefore we're moving forward under that approval. Planting season starts April 15th, and I believe our landscape architect and our staff are scheduled to go to that nursery to look at the trees were selected. The name of that arborist, that's the first, this problem brought to my attention, so if you could share that, I'd certainly look into it.
I'll share it with, it works with the state and the urban, and just more so we'd be also willing to work with the planters to ensure that the trees are planted properly, because a lot of times you do see them choking a tree by putting the soil up too high, not spreading out the roots properly, and that, you know, basically the tree's ready to be doomed if they don't plant it properly, for lack of a better way to put it.
Thank you. Another question was that we were curious as to the township, I think at the last board meeting, we had asked about the township planners. There was a $50,000 for a pathway along Montgomery in front of Black Rock. There was a question as to whether or not that was part of the early plannings, and that now that there's multiple safer sidewalks already in place, have we asked the township whether or not that is still necessary, since there are many other avenues to utilize instead?
We have not, because we focused our attention on mobilizing on the work that was approved by the board. So that's obviously had to get under contract and get through that process so that we can get them out there next week. We will be having ongoing conversations with the township, and I can't speak for the township.
Perfect. And then we had asked at the last facilities and purchasing, I think, was to have an updated plan on the capital improvements, to include age-appropriate playgrounds at each of the elementary schools as part of the capital improvement plan. Do we have an idea as to the cost and the design for each of those schools, so that we can kind of see how we can work those into the capital improvement project or plan?
I had, back in March, provided details to Dr. Yanni, so I don't want to speak out of turn.
Okay. So we can follow up. And then the last thing was just for this committee for facilities and purchasing, with full-day kindergarten being implemented, and the curriculum, it seems like, is kind of moving along as well. Do we have an idea as to when we should see in this committee, purchasing requests for the supplies, the textbooks, other needs to outfit the different classrooms? Just so we can make sure that those are provided to us, we're reviewing them, and that they're approved with plenty enough time for the implementation in the fall.
So our budgeted amount for all full-day kindergarten supplies, resources, you'll see tomorrow, is actually in next year's budget. Furniture will come sooner than later because we want to make sure that we have it, although we can't actually order anything until July 1 hits. And same with resources and materials. Right now, we're collecting what we currently have and then checking to see what we still need to purchase. So we're in that process.
So since it's already, you're saying so is it already approved? There's an amount that's already approved?
No,
so it won't
no,
come-
so
next
it
year's
won't be,
budget.
till the final budget approved in June.
Yeah.
After that's approved, then it's finalized.
Yeah.
At that point in time, then we can process POs and send them out to vendors, however the merchandise can't be received after July 1.
So does this committee meet? I know that there's some committees that meet over the summer. Okay, so we'll be able to, and that will give you enough leeway if you need resources for the
So
fall.
it's like textbooks and supplies and stuff will not go, they'll just be on the list of bills.
Okay.
And some of the furniture probably be through the list of bills also. I think what Dr. McGloin's saying is we need to finalize the list of furniture. We need to go to the vendors. We need to find out what the lead time is so it gets here on time. That's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
And we're not purchasing any, so from like a textbook perspective, we're using what we currently have and just expanding. We're not looking to add additional textbooks at this point in time. So you wouldn't see that come in front of the committee because nothing's changing as far as that is concerned. Resources, materials are like what's happening in our purposeful play areas. We do need more resources and materials for classes that are not currently open. So we'll be purchasing those. We already had that whole scope lined up. I will say that in CCOB next month, we're going to have a full-day kindergarten presentation, so you know where we are and what our progress is and what we still need to accomplish. So you'll see some of that as part of the presentation as well in CCOB.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the stuff's just going to go through the list of bills for a lot of things unless it goes over the threshold that needs to come through us.
Correct, correct.
It'll all be here in time for
Yes.
September.
Yeah.
It'll
it's
all
kind-
be here in
that-
time
yeah, I
for
think that-
September. We're working on it to
Yeah.
make sure that we have everything in
Yeah.
place, so
Yeah.
that when September hits, we have all the resources and materials and furniture that we need.
Nobody wants a classroom full of 5-year-olds and no furniture.
No, I just want to make sure that you
Yeah, yeah,
have
but
everything that you need in order
Right.
to
If
make
we
this
have
work.
50 classrooms right now, and now we go to 100, we'll just order for 100 classrooms instead of 50 like we normally do.
Yeah, that's-
No process.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the point is this is a very supportive board and we want to
Right.
make
No,
sure you
I
have what you need.
appreciate
Just want
that.
to make sure you have
Yeah.
everything that you need and that, it doesn't come a month before and then we're scrambling. We just want to make sure that you have everything that you need in order to make this work.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, you'll see tomorrow in Finance Committee, the money that we've budgeted for it.
I was just going to say finance meeting tomorrow for any
Yeah,
community
there I
members
set you up.
watching, 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. On Zoom. And for that, is there any comments on Zoom? As well with that, we'll bring unless there was anything more you had?
No, thank
okay,
you very
that's
much. I appreciate it.
So this is the end of today's facility purchasing meeting. Our next meeting is Thursday, May 16th, 2024. And for us, it will not be the last meeting of the year. We will be seeing you all summer long. Okay, thanks. Have a
you.
good one.